What's up, tankers? It's Taugrim. Today we take a second look at the M103. This is the Tier 9 American heavy tank, and as I talked about in the last video, it's one of the most incorrectly played tanks that I've seen in the upper tiers. In this battle, the only hard target they have is the E75, so I'm going to play Tank Alley, that is the 8 lane, and if they had an ST1 or any Tier 10 tank that has great hull down capability, such as the IS-7 or E100 or E3, I would not go Tank Alley because those tanks have much stronger turrets and their guns are much more threatening. The spot that I'm in right now, G7, is a fantastic spot if you're playing hull down because it totally covers your lower front glacis, most of your turret, and if you need to, you can pull back a little bit to the west to have complete hard cover. The problem in this battle is that our Centurion has pushed up so far that I'll have no shots on targets until the Centurion is dead or these tanks decide to push up. So I come up and support them. I don't really want to do this because where I am, there's very little affordance of hard cover, and depending on their RDs, I might potentially be exposed to RD as well. The Super Pershings have pretty good hull armor, but the turrets are pretty weak, the scalp, so I'm hitting the tops of the turret and just trying to keep my gun working and whittle them down. You can tell the E75 with the way that he's angled, that he's side scraping. So, I'm going to assume that this player is competent. He's not going to make it easy for me to penetrate him. If I'm facing a E75 1 versus 1 in Tank Alley, his gun takes a lot longer to aim than mine does, and my gun is also reasonably accurate. So even though, my cupola is bigger than his cupola, I can actually out-snapshot him and land damaging shots. But like I said, if they have better hold down tanks, especially like an ST1 or any Tier 10 heavy that's great at hold down, I would not be playing this lane. It'd be too much of a risk. This battle's unfolding pretty interestingly. They have strength in Tank Alley, so I'm basically holding off 4 tanks by myself here. And that's, one advantage of being able to play such a strong hold down position. And notice I'm not just ever sitting out there, I'm only exposing myself while I'm trying to aim shots, and then I'm pulling back into hard cover, or rather I should be pulling into hard cover, although most of these tanks are facing out a little bit to the west since one of our autoloaders, the T-54E1, has made a run past their D lane and is approaching their cap. And for the most part, a lot of drivers who play the M103 either are not disciplined in terms of keeping their turret face toward the next incoming fire, or they're overexposing their turret and allowing opponents to aim in. Because even that Tiger, even though he's a Tier 7 tank, he has plenty of penetration to punch through the cupola, which is only 110 millimeters of effective armor on the M103. So the Tiger, you can see, just like the Super Pershings, doesn't have a particularly strong turret, and I'm watching the minimap, and the IS Tier 7 heavy tank, the Ally, is getting wrecked and pushed up by 3 opposing tanks. So I decide to flex to the west, and I'm kind of assuming that our tanks we have a Tiger on the edge of Tank Alley, although he's not a particularly strong tank, and based on his positioning, I don't actually know if he knows what he's doing either. But I'm assuming that our tanks that are pushing toward their base are going to delay their tanks in Tank Alley, and then here I do a pretty poor trade with the Tier 8 152. He's got really an abomination for a Tier 8 gun. Has Tier 10 penetration and 750 alpha, and even though I out-aimed and outfired him and started to move, it wasn't enough to try to bait in an accurate shot, and he has something like on the order of 280 millimeters of penetration. That Roomba TD is on the other side of that building, but there was a slight window to try to hit him, so I go ahead and take the shot. Now I'm kind of in a tough spot because their E75 is starting to push down Tank Alley, and I'm going to get flanked pretty soon. I get another shot on the Centurion, and then here's kind of a crucial thing. I have to decide where I'm going to go. The 152 will take 2 shots for me to kill, same with the Centurion, whereas the E75 and Super Pershing are each one-shottable. So it's really not a decision, it's a pretty obvious decision to make. I flex back toward the east, toward Tank Alley, and I'm kind of hoping that their tanks are either going to try to cap or focus on killing Artie. Those 2 things will delay them. And, in my opinion, in about 80% of the times that people try to cap or are calling for a cap, it's actually the wrong tactical move. Like, this is such a small phone booth map that it's really hard to cap unless there are no tanks nearby to defend their base, and I'm pretty close by, so I'm not really too worried about that. I need to hurry up and get rid of this Super Pershing, but unfortunately I get tracked. I rush my shot a little bit, it bounces off the top of his turret, And then to make matters worse, instead of being disciplined after getting untracked and properly angling my hull to at least make it harder for him to penetrate me, I eat a second shot through my side hull armor. And that was very careless on my part because I've now dropped into one-shot territory for the 152. So, depending on where he is, I have to be careful. Now, we make a really critical decision. You can see that they've got 3 tanks in the northern half of the map, and all 4 tanks on our side, remaining tanks, push toward our cap, and that gives us the chance to have a 4 versus 3 isolation before their Tiger and Waffle TD can come down and support. Unfortunately, our T-44 noob-sided it into our cap, and then this E-1, for whatever inexplicable reason, is trying too hard to get the reset, and he put himself in the firing lanes of multiple tanks. He really should have just taken out the Centurion, and then we could have pushed up together to take out the 152. And then for some unknown reason, I think that Centurion might have thought I was still on reload. He gives me his totally exposed side, and I take him out. And again, we can't really take our time here. The longer we take, once the Tiger and Waffle arrive at our flank behind us, we're pretty much done. So, I need to have a sense of urgency here, and the 152 is one-shottable by me. That is the one good thing that the autoloader did. And, thanks to the relatively fast aim time and relatively good accuracy and good gun handling, I'm able to out-snapshot that 152 and take him out. Now we're in a much more manageable 2 versus 3 situation, whereas, moments ago, we were outnumbered much more severely. The TD here, or sorry, the RD here is clearly behind that fountain. I'm not going to have a shot, so the real question is, where are the Tiger and the Waffle? Because it's been a while since we've seen them, and I come around the corner and I see both of them, and I snapshot the Tiger. So now it's 2 versus 2. We know where the Waffle is, and my hope would be the Panther would have run up the 2 or 3 lane to get behind the Waffle, but now he's stopped along the G lane and exchanges shots with the Waffle, which is a terrible idea since the Waffle can one-shot him, but the reverse was not true. And I load high explosive here with the hope right there of, if I contact that RD anywhere, the explosion is going to finish him off. And I have to try to force 2 1 versus 1 isolations. If I just sit in a corner and wait for them to come, eventually they're going to be able to get on both sides of me, and during my reload, it's going to create problems. So I go ahead and push up this 4-5 lane, and my hope is to catch the RD before the Waffle can get in position. And I guess correctly, the RD pushes up around the corner and I tag him. So now the real question is, where is the Waffle TD? He could be along the G lane if he was trying to move along the same line as the RD. So what I'm going to do is just poke out the front of my tank and see if my Sixth Sense from the commander pops. So I come around the corner. I don't want to overexpose myself. The Waffle, depending which gun he has, I'm either 2-shottable or potentially 1-shottable. He's probably running the other gun, the higher DPM gun, higher rate of fire. And notice I wasn't lit, so I'm assuming he's coming behind me, which is correct. And then we exchange shots. Now his snapshot looks like it just went into the mantlet of my turret. However, these bat-like ears are super easy to hit. And, I say GG after he misses a shot because my reload is just very slightly faster than his, and I know that he can't one-shot me. So I finished with an Ace Tinker Mastery badge, over 5,400 damage, 7 kills, and 2,600 damage block, along with some defense points. And this actually was the last battle that I had in the M103. It was such a good game, I decided to go ahead and unlock the E5. But I was really surprised how I was able to do with this tank. 100% solo, about a 62% win rate, and over 2,500 damage per game. Next up, we're going to look at a monster carry in my E5. Take care.